Let's just get into it. So welcome everyone to Visa Web3. I'm your host, Melissa Henderson, and I am joined by the lovely Debbie Soon. She is the co-founder and chief growth officer of TheHug, which is a Web3 destination for all things curation, education, and a platform for really just inspiring creators in Web3. So let's just start from the beginning, Debbie. Can you just introduce yourself? How did you fall down the crypto Web3 rabbit hole?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that great introduction. So yeah, I'm Debbie. I'm the co-founder of TheHug alongside the one and only Randi Zuckerberg. I would say before Web3, I spent over 10 years of my career really investing in and building consumer businesses. So you can kind of call me consumer obsessed, if you will. I'm just so fascinated by all the evolving consumer trends and how people are changing their consumption habits. I love also that in real life, women account for 70 to 80% of consumption decisions. So there's something about that makes it really fascinating for me. And I got really excited about NFTs because I viewed it as consumer goods on the blockchain. So in my mind, it was a little bit of an evolution of e-commerce. And right before doing this, I was running the consumer products division of a sports company. Yep. So yeah, I felt like it really just kind of married my interest in consumer with, cutting edge evolution of tech. And I met my co-founder, Randi, in Discord. So it was a very really the ultimate Web3 meet cute story, if you will. And also because I'm Singapore born and raised, so I had just moved to the US about 2 years ago. And so what better way to meet someone and build a network than doing it on the internet, I guess.
Oh my gosh. And here in Web3, and just like with views of Web3, it's all about connecting Web2 to Web3 and figuring out where do you fit or where can you start to build. And that's one thing that me as a creator and really trying to document the spirit and personality of Web3, sharing all these different views. So the fact that you met Randi on Discord is just so, it's just iconic when it comes to Web3. So let's just get into a little bit about your financial background. I'm really impressed by your educational upbringing. You went to Cambridge, you went to some of the top schools like Columbia. Like how did this background kind of aid you into your transition into Web3 or just like your expertise in consumer goods?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, I feel like I'm fortunate in that, I grew up in a country that has really great, has a great educational system. And so my college and grad school education was funded by the Singapore government, essentially. So they're great in that sense. They really invest in their people. And so it's very meritocratic. I was fortunate enough to get accepted into these great schools. My education got paid for, but in return I had to come back and work for them for 6 years. So it was a little bit like selling your soul, but not in a sinister way. But yeah, so I came back to work in Singapore for I guess 6-7 years, where I was an investor. And I guess as it is kind of starting off at a new job and a new career, was able to really find kind of where my passions were, which was in consumer. And I guess I was just really fortunate to have been able to look at companies across the range of consumer industries. So anything from retail to automotive to fast food restaurants, so really like the whole range, which is why I think I got really inspired by all the trends that I was seeing. In the middle of that too, what I didn't mention was that I founded my first startup in boutique fitness.
Wow.
And I would say that was probably the first time that I was actively involved in building a community-based business. For anybody that's ever been to a boutique fitness studio, the reason why a lot of people go there instead of going to the big gyms is because there is this sense of community and there is this sense of intimacy and almost like a unique culture that is hard to replicate, in a larger environment. And so I would say that served me really well kind of coming into Web3, because even though that was a community that was based on a physical location, there were a lot of things I felt that were transferable into the Web3 space. And so I definitely look back on that experience very fondly, and also look at what kind of principles and values I can apply when building a community online as well.
Oh my gosh, that is so. I was looking through your background too. You're like a CrossFit trainer, and it's so. Or you focus on the CrossFit, right, or something of that nature. I was like trying to figure it out, but I think in general, yeah. To your point, like boutique fitness is about like the community and figuring out like, okay, I want to go and work out, but I also want to meet new people. And that type of business model has definitely like skyrocketed in, I would say, the COVID generation, and people forming these online communities and on Zoom to work out and kind of like figure out, okay, I don't want to be in a house alone, let me work out together. And I was definitely one of those people that got memberships at these like little boutique fitness virtual platforms. And you talked about a little bit about esports, and I think that's an interesting kind of transition, and it definitely speaks well to Web3. What are some of the similarities of like esports and Web3 that you've noticed, or maybe Web3 can take cues from?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, definitely the esports and the gaming community is a very, very special community. It's a very unique kind of subculture where everyone, maybe, I don't want to say that they feel like other, but because it's so kind of unique, like there is kind of a special language that transpires between gamers. And I think in some ways, a lot of it is the case too for Web3. What I would say is the difference is, Web3 is essentially the future evolution of the internet. So it shouldn't be something that remains niche. I would say at the moment, it perhaps is, because we haven't really reached that large consumer moment or large consumer adoption yet. But for now, I guess for all of us early adopters or the people that are in the space early, there definitely is a little bit of lingo, like the fact that we call crypto Twitter when it's just Twitter, little quirks like that. I think it's what makes it really interesting at this stage.
Yeah, and I keep on saying we're still early, and like, it is about the early adopter, but it's also about mass adoption and how we're going to get so many people into Web3, which leads me to, my next point. When did you realize that the stickiness of Web3 and then creating the hug for creators? I know it's for more, maybe traditional artists, or can you just talk a little bit about the thought process that led you and Randi into the hug?
Yeah, so, I think we were both really excited about the opportunities that Web3 offered, particularly to artists. I think we've been seeing how on Web2 platforms, artists are putting out a lot of their own content out there, but not necessarily, owning their audience. And so the idea of Web3 and being able to disintermediate the middleman was something that we felt was really powerful. Particularly of Randi's background, she's a Broadway producer, but she has like so little access to the actual artists and performers themselves. So, that's kind of really where her motivation stemmed from. I think from my side, having grown up in a small country, always feeling like because of where I'm from, like whatever I'm doing is not relevant and not being able to get that global audience. And so I really do feel with Web3, because of the way the community has emerged, it's it's brought borders a lot closer, if you will. And so that was really our like kind of driving force and impetus for Hug, where we really set out to level the playing field for all artists to succeed. And, we wanted to make it easier for them to get seen, to get shared, and to get celebrated. And that was really kind of the genesis of Hug. And Hug today, we're describing it kind of like a Facebook meets Etsy for artists. We wanted to make it easier for artists to connect with each other, to connect with collectors, but then also, along the way, facilitating them to be more successful selling their work. And I would say this is where we kind of straddle this obviously this cutting edge of Web3 and NFTs, but yet feeling that we shouldn't have to abandon all of the good things about Web2. Like, I think a lot of the times when in this space, because it's so new, everyone's like, okay, Web3 is the best and Web2 sucks, but like without realizing that that's kind of what got us here. And
Right.
so where that plays for Hug is that we know that artists didn't wake up one morning because of NFTs and said, okay, I'm going to be an artist. A lot of these artists, they have been artists for like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. They've been selling their work through a variety of means, whether it's prints, whether it's commissions, whether it is, much other kinds of merchandise. And then NFTs for them is really just an additional revenue stream, which is an incredibly powerful revenue stream, but it's something that they're doing on top of all of their other, all of their other activity. And so our vision for Hug is really to help them bring their audiences together, really consolidate that portfolio so that, their NFT collectors can see that they have these physical goods, and the people that buy the physical goods could maybe learn about what an NFT is and why they would want to own something digitally as well.
That's amazing. And what case studies or like success stories can you share from the Hug? I know you guys are fresh off of your $5 million seed raise, so congratulations. But there was so much that went into that before that raise, and building up this community. Like, what were some of the early adopters of community really excited about when they joined?
Yeah, so earlier this year, we added the function or the feature where artists can accept commission requests directly. I've definitely commissioned a number of custom art pieces myself, whether it is for myself to, I'm a dog mom, so whether it is just to, put my dog as an art piece, which I love, or as a gift. And I feel like it makes some of the most meaningful gifts when someone sees like a personalized piece of artwork. And so we added that. We offered some education about how to build like a commissions business if you're an artist. And we saw like a number of artists have their first commission. And for a lot of artists, they never thought of commissions as a revenue stream or as a way to even just build a deeper connection with a collector. And Andy Warhol is actually one of the most famous commissioned artists. He actually was known as a commissioned artist and would do a lot of portraits and everything. So, I think by providing that level of education, by showing artists that this is something that's possible, we've really helped to, help be a part of this really beautiful story between artist and collector, and are just one more thing that's added to their entrepreneurial journey as well.
Oh my gosh, I love that, uplifting the artist to make a connection through commissions. And there's so many different artists now. Even I'm based in Miami, and we have Art Basel, and some people think that, oh, I have to buy like thousands of dollars for pieces, and it's like, no, like, you could support an artist in your price range budget. If you can only afford a couple $100, I'm pretty sure there's an artist that would love to create something that's pure, that's really perfect for you, and you're gonna love it. And so I think that's awesome that you guys are building that sort of journey for the artist, especially in this day and age. One thing that got me into Web3 was just the idea of owning my work and then being able to reach back out to my readers. Because as a writer, it's like, I can't count an impression or a page view as a part of the community. Yes, it's a data set, but if someone purchases a writing NFT or something that is stored on a blockchain, that's a more tangible item for me to like reach back out to them. So I love that aspect of it. So if anyone's listening and they want to get something commissioned, do they, I guess for the audience, would they go into the Hug and use the platform, or is this really for artists? Like, how can people kind of interact with the Hug based on like artists, or if they're kind of like a supporter?
Yeah, absolutely. So go into TheHug.xyz, and you can see which artists are offering commissions. We have, I think, hundreds of artists that are currently offering commissions. So if you find an artist whose style that you like, just send them a request on directly through Hug. And, we're not taking any part of the transaction at all. We're just there to really facilitate the conversation between the artist and the collector, because I think on the artist side of things, sometimes they don't know if a request coming in is legitimate or not. So, we know that the community that we're built on Hug are really made out of true like artists and art lovers. And then likewise, collectors are unsure like whether an artist is open to commissions and can feel kind of awkward about it. And so, we're just making it a lot easier for artists and collector to have that conversation.
I love that. And so I guess like just switching gears a little bit on, this relationship between artists and creators, what are some of the challenges that you're working to solve right now? You heard, well, you just talked a little bit about like this commission aspect. What other challenges are you solving with the Hug?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that the number one problem that we're solving right now is really discovery. Twitter is just so noisy. It's really like a lot of times artists will share that they have work available for sale, but it just kind of gets lost. And so, we really want to make it easier for artists to be able to share their updates directly to collectors. So introducing more collector management tools, and just giving them a platform to be able to, connect and communicate better. So, that's really other things that were included as well to help solve that is that we have a really helpful tagging system. So if you're looking for an AI artist, or if you're looking for an artist with, that's more into abstract art or in photography, or you're looking to champion a cause and you're looking to support, Asian artists during AAPI Heritage Month, we make all of that really easy to find them on Hug.
I love that. I love the discoverability, because I think now that I think about it, it's like you discover artists like at an art gallery or at a museum, which at that point they're unattainable, or in like an art show, kind of like Art Basel, or some type of local like artisans on Etsy. So that's really cool, and I think that's really going to change it and empower the trajectory of like what it means to become an artist, like what's the career path, and like even like documenting like how much artists get paid, because right now there really isn't any data sets around like how much artists get paid, since it's so arbitrary and everyone has their own prices. um are you seeing a shift in prices? That now that people are offering commissions, can you see like how like artists are able to earn money, or do you recommend like a commission base for artists who've never went down that revenue path?
Yeah, so we wrote, like I said, we on top of Hug, the platform itself, we also provide a lot of education as well. So we have a free weekly newsletter that we call Creative Royalties, and every week it covers topics that are relevant to artists, both ranging from Web3 related topics like, what are Bitcoin ordinals to like what are budding NFTs, as well as topics that are not necessarily related to Web3, but are useful for an artist. So commissions being one of them, another being, how do you write an effective artist bio? So I think just providing a lot of tools that would be interesting to artists who are curious about Web3 or already in Web3 and in NFTs. So, within that piece on commissions, we definitely provided some guidance on, how to structure a commission business properly, like, taking into account the price of your existing work, and then knowing that you could probably charge more for it, charging a premium over it because this is one of a kind, taking into consideration a number of revisions that you're offering to someone. So you're not like stuck into this, I guess conversation or dialogue where you're just making like countless revisions, and being very clear about that upfront. So we definitely provided some guidelines that has been interesting to see how, artists have kind of taken that and run away with it.
Yeah, no, I love that, especially with like that hit home close to home, the revisions. That it's like, as a writer, it's like, listen, you have 1 to 2 rounds of revisions and then that's it. But I think it's cool that you're kind of, I don't want to say standardizing, but elevating a new sense of like, how do you do business in Web3? What's your advice for artists that are skeptical and diving into Web3? Because we've seen the effects of Silicon Valley Bank and FTX, and people getting rugged on the platform and getting all of their crypto like taken from them with a click of a phishing link. Like, what's some of the advice that you like to tell like artists who might be like super already kind of successful in Web 2, and they might be a little bit skeptical about diving into Web 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the security concerns are valid. So, I think for anybody that's new to the space, I would, encourage them to, before fully diving in, looking up what some of the best security practices are, so things like, guarding your seed phrase and not distributing it, or checking every single link to make sure that it's a legitimate one. So I think that's kind of, necessary before, getting set up with a crypto wallet and all of that. But I think once the initial onboarding is done, to be honest, I feel a little bit that, what's the worst that could possibly happen for an artist that already has a practice to then look into NFTs as an additional revenue stream.
Right.
Like, I think I've always viewed it as just another medium in which to sell one's art. So, I could say I'm creating a painting. I could sell that physical painting, or I could make copies of it and sell prints. I could take that painting, print it on a tote bag, sell the tote bag, or I can make copies of it and sell it digitally. And so that to me is just like another, It's not that it really replaces the entire creative practice of it. It's that you're now making your work available digitally, exposing your work to a greater audience who might not be in your country. And through that, also having a dialogue and conversation with your collector base, because I think that's probably the one thing that we haven't really seen as much of, like when you are, selling physical art, especially if your art gets sold again, and then knowing that, hey, you have a new collector. And that doesn't mean that you forget about your old collector, but you now, through the blockchain, being able to see where your art is traveling and who else you can start bringing into your communications and into your orbit.
For sure. What do you think about the anonymity of like crypto? I think like that has been kind of such a huge core theme in crypto from, I would say, a certain timeline. But as we get into like the consumer goods front, like how do you see the anonymity or the pseudonymity kind of evolving, or maybe fading away?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely respect the pseudonymity as well. I think a lot of people, it's hard to know what everybody's individual circumstances are. There could be very valid reasons for someone not wanting to disclose their actual identity online, especially in a space that is new and that people don't really have a lot of understanding of. So, I definitely respect that. And, some people may not feel safe disclosing their their ethnic identity or their sexuality, and they feel like in this environment, because it's new and there's an opportunity to represent who they are, like, the other aspects of themselves. I definitely am all for it. And I'm also very respectful of, people who don't want to be doxxed. I'll be like, yeah, definitely not doxing you and all of that. So, I mean, I do think that in terms of how it will evolve, I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see more of that pop up, but also, infrastructure and tools that allow people to verify or like privately verify, who this person is. So, say if you're hiring somebody that is pseudonymous, doxing yourselves to your employer, but making sure that all of the information remains private. So I could see kind of infrastructure moving in that direction. So, but yeah, I think, for the people who play games, we talked about esports, we talk about like gaming. A lot of these gamers, they have like these avatars or these gamer names, and they're more well known for who they are in the game than they are kind of like, outside of it.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's so funny too. And it's like, that kind of could add to the mysteriousness of an artist, that only like showing like who they are on canvas versus like who they are, like, their profile and their background. It could probably add to like the whole marketing mystique of it. But I do feel like with crypto, we are trying to change the narrative with like elevating some of these consumer goods like the Hug and some of the other NFT utility brands out there. I guess like for one of like some of my last questions, and I'm going to definitely encourage the Violet Verse and Rug Radio audience to navigate the Hug. What are some of the features that are upcoming? What are you launching that we could be excited about and tune into?
Yeah, so for starters, I would definitely encourage everyone to go to TheHug.xyz, like, discover like any one of the 1,000+ artists that we have on our platform already. You can leave them a review now. So if you find an artist that you love and you really love their work, you don't have to have collected their work before. If you just appreciate their work and want to share, what it is about their work that resonates with you, that's something that we felt is really powerful and uplifting. I like to say that you don't always have to support artists financially. There are many different ways to support artists and help them feel seen. And just give them some encouragement, especially during this bear market. But very soon we'll have the functionality to follow your favorite artists. So if you are interested in staying up to date with an artist, getting their updates, so making sure that you don't miss out on key information, key drops, adding additional levels of interactivity. Right now, you can kind of leave an artist a review, but what does it look like for a collector to be discovered themselves? And, at Hug, we believe that anyone can be a curator. I think the traditional art institutions have always been, you needed to have a certain kind of art education or art degree to become a gallerist.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about Web3 is that we feel like anyone can, appreciate art, and anyone can, be a tastemaker. And so how do we empower everyone who loves art to just become an art collector and an art curator? And so we're looking to roll out these public collector and curator profiles as well. But yeah, all of that's coming soon, but definitely encourage everyone to just get an account on Hug and just start interacting with all the amazing artists that we have there.
Thank you so much, Debbie Soon, for coming over to the show at Views of Web3. I'm looking forward to learning more about the Hug, navigating the Hug, leaving some reviews, because I know some of my favorite Web3 artists are already in the Hug. And if you're an artist and you're looking to get into Web3, check out the Hug. These are resources that are available. And when you're early, that means you get early access and you're able to tap into these new revenue streams to unlock your power on Web3, on the blockchain. So thank you again, Debbie Singh, for joining us. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.